Fixed it. It just stopped happening one day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GVGCast. How y'all doing today? We are here today. We gather, as always, after a long week to chat with friends, talk about what we've been playing, and generally what we've been keeping up with. I'm your host, Daniel Alba. I'm joined here by Ash Paulson,
Hello, hello.
and we have Brandon Miracle here. Hi, Brandon. It's been a bit.
Woo! Hello. It's
I-
me.
I've missed you. Welcome.
I miss you too.
Let's see here. Is someone saying my microphone sounds low? It probably is. I've been adjusting my stuff for a little bit now. I've been trying to figure out like what's the optimal way to have some of this.
Hello, I'm Brandad. Nice to meet you.
Granddad.
Brandad, welcome. Okay, that's probably better. But yeah, it's been a week. How y'all doing? We hello chat in Twitch, chat in Patreon live audience. I should sound fine now. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. We're just gonna chill out and have a good time because it's been a long week.
Almost feel like we're going to a wedding. You're like, we are gathered here today. And I'm like, oh, we're at a wedding? Nice.
Yeah, we have
Where's the free food?
come together to to wish our very best for my sanity. Yeah, it's been we've been trying to keep things all put together as usual, but I wanted to know, Brandon, what have you been up to? It's been a moment. How you doing?
I'm good. Just noticed there's something on my lip, but I got it. I'm doing my best, man. I'm a busy boy these days. Between being a dad and taking on new work, it has occupied the majority of my free time. So I've been doing a lot of gaming late into the night. Or just when I have a free moment during the day. As far as games that I'm playing,
Mhm.
I just finished Shadow Generations last night.
All right.
I didn't go for 100%. I just finished it in general. Because I was up waiting for my wife to get home from work. She's been working incredibly late nights, like getting home at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Oof,
kind of
jeez.
late.
Dang.
So I've been waiting up for her at night, and I just played Shadow Generations start to finish in one sitting.
Nice.
I'm glad that game is
And I loved it.
I'm glad that game is short enough that we can just play through it in one go if we are that dedicated enough, at least for Shadow Generations side itself. I'm waiting for that to come in today. It's probably gonna arrive during the GVG cast if my shipment notices or anything to go by. And the pattern lately, I got like Metaphor while I was on stream the other day
Right.
too. But yeah, it's nice to have a shorter game amidst all the long ones I've been playing lately. And just trying to
Yeah.
finish, trying to 100% complete certain ones, trying to get to ones that I haven't played before. It's a busy time right now, but at least Shadow Generations, Sonic Shadow Generations itself sounds like a much more digestible session than most of the other ones I've been trying to commit to lately.
I washed
no
the
metaphor,
Frontiers
that's for sure.
taste out of my mouth.
It's too bad you couldn't be there for our tier list ranking for 3D Sonic games, Brandon, because John and I had an interesting discussion about Frontiers, and we know that Steve is rather famously really disliked it, and I know you didn't, obviously, based on what you just said now and before, you didn't particularly love it either. Whereas I think John and I are a bit softer on it. We both liked it, if not necessarily loved it.
I liked that game a lot more in its opening hours than I did by the time it was over.
Fair
By the
enough.
time it was over, I just wanted it to end. Like, I was not having fun anymore.
Gotcha.
But Shadow Generations is great, and I had a blast playing it.
Big
good.
same, man. I was weak. Well, two things. One, I was weak, so I went for the digital deluxe edition, so I could play it 3 days early. But also, John needed someone else, or we needed more than one person for that 3D Sonic tier list discussion. So, because I'm weak, I volunteered as tribute and basically played almost the entire game as you did in one sitting overnight. I didn't quite finish it because I went for some of the side stuff too, but I basically played everything but the final boss in one sitting. And just to prepare myself for that discussion. And like you said, man, it's great. It's great. It's Sonic Team really cooked on this one. Daniel, you have a lot to look forward to. The level design is truly excellent in this game. It's just a great ride from start to end.
That's good. It's nice to be in an era where we've escaped the dark ages of Sonic, where games are coming out, they're being highly reviewed, movies are coming out, they're being highly anticipated and reviewed.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be a Sonic fan and not feel not feel weird about it because boy, it was in a weird place in not even just a few years back, but with games like Frontiers, Shadow Generations, the movies coming out, other media as well, like what we've been seeing on like limited animations and whatnot. It's been nice to see the series flourish again and kind of get back on track, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. One of the coolest things about oh, sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say if once a year or once every other year we got a Sonic game of comparable length of that quality, I'd be pretty happy.
Same. I mean, it's certainly I think I would like the mainline Sonic game to be a little longer, maybe not necessarily as long as Frontiers, but maybe a little longer than this. But if we could get
Yeah.
in between games that are of this length, yeah, I say go for it.
Yeah.
I know there are rumors kicking around out there that they're possibly working on a remake of Sonic Heroes, which that's a strange one to choose to remake. If so,
Are they
don't
gonna make
know.
it good this time?
I know,
Well,
right?
actually-
Exactly. They've got to do a lot to it to make it a particularly great game. So I don't know, and everybody wants them to do the adventure game. So like, why would they do Heroes first?
Heroes probably needs more touch ups than the adventure games do because I feel like with Heroes you could it's just the same campaign 3 times and then the Chaotix team is
Yeah.
actually one that varies. I feel like even though Team Sonic is your standard mode, Team Dark is the harder mode, and Team Rose is the easy mode. But I feel like you can just change those courses in general. Like keep Sonic's the way he is, and then just adjust the actual the structure of the game and gameplay with the other 2 teams, and just make him feel
Right.
more distinctly different, so that it's not like you're playing the same thing 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very strange because the way they ordered it in that game, for those who don't know, it's Team Sonic and then Dark and then Rose and then Chaotix. So if you're going down in order, you're playing hard mode after you
Mhm.
play normal mode, and then you're playing easy mode after that if you're going down the list, and it's very jarring.
Yeah.
But I
Ye-
mean, like with many Sonic games, it has its highs, especially towards the end. But in the middle, there's a lot of like, I feel like I'm playing this over and over again with no benefit to myself.
I remember as a kid, maybe like 10, 11, or 12, my friend had all these Sonic games on GameCube, and he let me borrow them all one at a time as I played through them because I had
Nice.
never played them before. So I played Sonic Adventure DX, which I remembered loving. Played Sonic Adventure 2, which I also loved. And then I got to Sonic Heroes, and I just didn't finish it. And as a kid, like, you're a lot more resilient to mid. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So for me, as a 12
Yeah.
or 13-year-old, whatever age I was, to not manage to finish Sonic Heroes, I think says a lot about that game.
That game gets extremely frustrating toward the end. It just gets really janky. The level design gets very frustrating. Kind of like Sonic Lost World. Like that was a game where I really enjoyed the first half, and then I could pinpoint the exact moment when the level design started falling off a cliff, and from then on, I was just hate playing it to the end. Even though I still love the visuals and the music, it was just not fun. It was so frustrating, and that's how I felt about Sonic Heroes. Like it opens pretty strong, I think, but then the further in you get, it just gets so frustrating.
Did you all play that on GameCube or PS2 or a different platform?
I played it on
GameCube for me.
GameCube.
Okay,
Yeah.
we all played on GameCube. We would have probably had a worse time on other platforms because, as the game Jamie is saying, Heroes is not bad as long as you play the GameCube version, not on PS2. The PS2 has the most bugs. That is actually, in fact, a buggy mess. Playing the GameCube
Yes.
version is the optimal way to experience Sonic Heroes in its entirety. But
I think buggy mess is the reason I struggle so hard to go back to playing something like Sonic Adventure 2, a
mhm.
game that as a child I absolutely adored. I end up hate playing it because sometimes the game just doesn't work like the
I
way you expect it to. And I feel like if they released a new version of the game, just the same game, fixed the audio issues, fixed all the graphical problems in the battle version, and made the game not a broken mess, I think I'd
Yeah.
probably sit down and enjoy it.
the
hmm
yeah, I remember I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on stream earlier this year, and it starts off with a bang, and then man, as you keep going, it's just like, wow, we really put up with a lot when we were younger. Because some of
So
the
true.
stages, some of the way that things work, some of the functions of things are just, I don't know how these got through. One of the most jarring things for me these days, now that I'm more sensitive to it, is in the Tails and Eggman stages. The beeping, the long beeping of the laser is so
Oh,
annoying throughout every
Mhm.
stage. Like, that could be easily rectified in a remake where you could just have it be much quieter, or just like after you hold it for a certain amount of time, then it actually starts to make a audio cue that you're holding a targeting system down. But my God, there's just a lot of little things with that game that could benefit from a remake. So if they're going for heroes, I guess that's we're in. They're gonna run out of games to remake eventually. They'll eventually finally do Adventure 1 and 2, but I guess that remains to be seen.
I mean, I joke, but I legitimately look forward to the idea of them remaking Sonic Heroes and making a
Hmm.
game I would hopefully actually enjoy
hmm
playing once all is said and done. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, go back and do Adventure 1 and 2, please. Um, they do need help.
right. I mean, and Adventure One is still a game that I absolutely adore, despite the jank. Like I can go back to Adventure One any day and play it, and just I have such a special place in my heart for that game. Even though I recognize that it needs to be cleaned up and the rough edges be polished and everything, but I still, man, I love that game to death.
I think to myself the ways that they can make those games better, and I'm just like, Sega, I know you're listening to us now. Please, this is the golden moment, the era in which we can put these games out there and remakes, and they'll be well received as long as you guys are still following the philosophies that you've learned with games like Frontiers and Shadow Generations and whatnot. So, well,
You
well,
know, speaking of like future Sonic games and what they're doing next, John and I were talking about like a particularly interesting theory, I think. And I obviously we know from all the marketing and stuff, this isn't a spoiler, that Chaos Island is one of the stages in Shadow Generations. But of course, as we all know, Shadow was not in Sonic Frontiers, so it made John and I kind of wonder: are they maybe going to do like a ultimate edition of Sonic Frontiers with all the currently released DLC, and then maybe like a new episode, like a Shadow episode on the Starfall Islands where he visits Chaos Island and gives context to why he's there in a future we haven't seen yet? Like that's got to be something, right? They can't just
I
put Shadow on Chaos Island and talk about how these are and Sunset Heights are places he hasn't been to yet, and then do nothing with that, right?
I really hope we don't regulate Shadow to like, oh, he's the extra episode now, the other
Oh, I
extra
hope
episode
not
guy.
too.
I'd rather
Yeah.
he just have his own role and be as involved with a game that is meant to have him in it, like with Sonic.
I'm
Like
infinitely more interested in Shadow as a character than I am Sonic at this point, just because of his storytelling and,
mhm.
hmm
well, the fact that things have actually happened to him that are worth noting.
Uh huh.
Sonic's just kind of the everyman, and that's fine. Like, Goku's a very similar character in that regard, and I love Goku. But, you know,
But
Shadow's got
it's
something to cling
Vegeta
on
is the
to.
one that has the history behind him, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
It's the same principle.
Same exact.
I don't
Um,
know. I gotta say, I mean, I love them both. I love them both. I am a Sonic guy at the end of the day, but trust me when I say I want a new adventure style game that has like it's like Adventure One that has stories for every main character. I want a Sonic story. I want a Shadow story. I want Tails and Knuckles and Amy separately playable again, like with their own campaigns. That's what I want more than anything.
and make them meaningful. I mean,
Yes,
you can
exactly.
save one or two to just be kind of like jokey. This is just a fun thing, so that we're not like going serious mode all the time, always serious.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like Sonic deserves something a little more edgy.
hmm
You know, it didn't quite work for me in Frontiers all the way, but like I don't know. I feel like there's
I
more
mean,
to
he got it in
explore there.
'06 a little bit for what that's worth.
That
Well,
game isn't real. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
One more thing about Sonic Force or Sonic Shadow Generation before we move on, and I kind of just spoiled my own point here. But one of my unexpected favorite things about Shadow Generations, and I should have seen it coming since Sonic Generations kind of did this with Sonic 2006, but it's like a redemption arc for Sonic Forces. Like Sunset Heights gave us a glimpse of what Sonic Forces would have been like as a great game, and it was so compelling. The set pieces, the music remixes were so good. I'm like, this is a Sonic Forces level, and Sunset Heights Act 1 might be my favorite level in the game. It's so good, and I'm like, what if, in some alternate universe, Sonic Forces had actually been good?
I just want to know what happened.
I know,
What
right?
happened over these last few years behind the scenes that resulted in this set of things that are happening to Sonic between the movies, Sonic Frontiers, and Shadow Generations? I mean, we should also probably eventually talk about what happened to Sonic Generations, but that's a whole different can of worms. Um, I'm happy things are trending in this direction, and I hope we continue going up.
Me
yeah.
too. I really can't wait to see what Sega's got cooking next. And this has just been a great year for Sega in general, man. I mean, we got Sonic X Shadow, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, like they're Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Like they really cooked this year.
Yeah, there's a lot happening with Sega, and we're not even done with the year yet. So
No,
we're gonna definitely have a lot of Sega popping up and whatnot during our end of the year. Well, I have an idea what we're gonna do for our like discussions and whatnot for the end of the year and our top picks for stuff. I'll inform you guys in a little bit later. But speaking of things that happening recently, well, I guess not so recently, I wanted to bring up a topic that we hadn't really addressed at all. It has been 8 years this week since the NX was revealed as the Nintendo Switch. It's been
what?
an entire 8 years since we saw that first advertisement on Nintendo's channel. I think I'm wondering where I want to know more where you were, Brandon, because I'm pretty sure that I was that guy tuning in the Game Explain to see the everyone's reaction to just refreshing the page, waiting for the ad to pop up on on Nintendo's channel and witnessing it with everybody else what this crazy weird console was finally going to be. But what were you at, Brandon, in life during that time? What were you
Where was Brandon 8 years ago today? Funny enough, I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when this happened. Um, 8 years ago, I worked at a local television station. Um, I wore like 6 hats by the time I left that place. At the time, I was a videographer slash like the guy that goes out and gets the news. That guy,
Mhm.
not quite a reporter, somewhere in between. Um, and my shift had just started, and the trailer was going to drop like within minutes of me getting to work.
Oh no.
So I brazenly sat down at my desk, turned on my computer, went straight to YouTube and watched it right in the middle of the newsroom. And I mean, I'm in the middle of the newsroom, literally the center of the entire room, watching it at regular volume. I did not give a crap what other people thought. I was like, this is happening. This is my Christmas. Let me have this for the next 3.5 minutes, and then I'll go do my job. So yeah, I watched it. I was blown away, and then immediately had to go to my first story. And like you, waited for some GX discussions, which I would listen to while I drove between all the places I had to go to every day for work.
Nice.
That was my ritual. GX discussions and Real Talk podcast were my radio
Yeah,
during those years.
that's so funny. That's not related to Switch itself, but that's pretty much what I was doing when I was still working at our trophy shop way back then. Was sitting in the terrible California 880 traffic, but accompanied by all the guys just chatting on Game Explain, just about whatever was going on at that time. So they all saved me during those years from losing my sanity for a major part of it. So always
Whatever
thank
Same
happened to those
here.
guys? Those guys must be insufferable in person. Like, what are they even doing now?
I don't
Like,
know.
seriously. Yeah. Um, that's funny. I mean, it's so interesting in my position to hear you guys say that, and of course, I love that I and we were able to give you that, kind of content that got you through the day and that you were hyped for. It's just weird sitting on the other end, hearing you guys say that, and yet now we're all together at GVG. I love it. I think it's the coolest thing ever. It's just such an interesting dichotomy.
You say that, and then I'm the one who's confused when people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love listening to your videos. I love listening to your voice and your discussions and all that." I'm just like, I'm just the one who was just listening to the majority of this crew way back then, and so the cycle continues.
Yeah,
I have had that experience a few times going to events in Chicago where people will recognize me.
nice.
First time it happened, I was like, "What do I do? What do I do? How do I interact with this person?" And then recently I went to the Wazzies, Scott the Waz's award show
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Chicago. And I got to chat with him after the show. He walked up to me and said, "Brandon Miracle, your videos are so good." And I was like,
Oh man,
Scott the Waz.
I would have been so jazzed if that happened to me.
I rode that high for like 2 weeks. But yeah, it is wild being in a similar position now. Are we gonna have coworkers in 8 years that are gonna be like, "I used to listen to you guys when the Switch 2 was being announced. Like I
Right.
was there when you did your discussion on the news." And I'm gonna be like 38, 40-year-old Brandon being like, "Hey, what? What do you
and
mean?"
that's about to happen with the Switch 2. We're about to enter the era of Switch 2 where we all together now as a team get to react to the Switch 2 announcements, just like we did back at GX for the Switch 1.
Gonna be a scary ride, but yeah,
Crazy.
it's been wild to see how fast these years have gone with the Switch itself since those days. Since we saw Karen on her rooftop parties and that one guy with the massive Great Dane dog just chilling out playing Breath of the Wild so casually, just there.
Yeah.
Though that was the same advertisement that we saw Mario Odyssey for the first time. We were just it was just
Oh,
there.
God.
Right.
It was just there.
I-
No fanfare. It was just in that commercial. Isn't that crazy?
I remember the discourse over Mario Odyssey at that point.
The
I don't know
disbelief.
if any of you remember this.
Oh
But
yeah.
I was losing my mind at all the people who thought it was a 3D World sequel. I'm like, it's
right.
clearly an open
Clearly
Mario
not.
game.
Yeah.
Look
Like,
at it.
You need eyes. All you need is your eyes to be able to tell.
Yeah. I don't know why
Oh, man.
why or how anybody could have ever thought that. It's it was such a different like a demonstrably visibly different format from 3D World. Like why would you ever come away from that thinking that?
Yeah, we got what? There was like 2 shots in the trailer of Mario Odyssey on
Yeah.
Toast
Mhm.
Arena or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it was clear to me that this was a more open style Mario game, and I remember everyone being like, "Nope, that's not what it is." And I'm like, "Who are you? Where
Mhm.
are
I
you
think-
thinking for yourself?"
As Brandon Bovey in chat saying, in the Wii U era, we were all traumatized, so we didn't know what to believe back then. We were sensitive
Yeah.
to this after whatever happened with the Wii U times, but
You're protecting your heart from more pain.
It's funny. I have a similar story from around back then. Not exactly the Switch's launch, but getting to talk to someone whom I looked up to growing up in the game journalism, gaming coverage realm. And it was that fateful morning that Mega Man was revealed for Smash, and I lost my mind. Of course, I wish we had been doing reaction streams back then, so I had it for posterity. But it was that night or that morning that Mega Man was revealed, and then right after the direct, I had to get ready to go to E3. And I ended up getting in the entry line. That was back when there was like a line to get in, and I got in line behind Jeremy Parrish of all people. And I grew up loving his work, and he's a big retro gaming fan. He loves Mega Man as well, and so he and I basically spent our time getting into E3 just geeking out about how cool it was that Mega Man finally got into Smash Brothers. And I was like, this is Jeremy freaking Parrish. Like I grew up loving this guy's work. And to have him like talk to me about that as an equal, as like a fellow industry professional, was like such a cool moment.
yeah, at the end of the day, we're all just guys and gals who want to just talk about games and play them, and we just happen to put our opinions and whatnot on the internet, and people like listening to those. So I don't know. if we have that platform, I'm thankful to share that kind of passion with people that are like minded like that. It's always fun to talk about that sort of thing. That's what's going to happen with the Switch too, because yeah, the original advertisement really showed a major turning point in many aspects for Nintendo. Like, I don't think it's unheard of that they would just announce that in its own commercial, in its own little slot, like just upload it to YouTube. Usually you're waiting for like a direct or E3 announcement or something, but this is the first time that you're just like, no, we're just gonna throw it out there and see what happens with this kind of marketing direction. And it paid off in the end.
It
Yeah.
was really smart too, because Nintendo was under a lot of scrutiny at the time. Nintendo Directs weren't even all that popular at that point because most of the time it was just, please understand, which I do understand. Being in the future and having hindsight, I get it. Y'all were cooking, and thank God for that.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was rough. So releasing that as its own video, building up that anticipation for like, what was it, 2 years of knowing that the NX was a thing
Yeah, more
before
or
we even
less.
got to see it. They built up that anticipation, and they made sure that when that reveal happened, there was no other information to go along with it. It's just, this is the Switch. We'll talk about it more later. We have no other announcements at this time.
Yeah, no specs, no specs to speak of on the announcement. It just did the smart thing and only showed gameplay for every bit of games
Right.
that they showed on there, which is what everyone should follow, honestly. But
Also, it opened on one of the most anticipated video games of all time, being
Right.
Breath of the Wild, which
Yeah.
was super smart.
And it really does lend truth to the old adage that the night is darkest before the dawn, because 2016, the year before that, was, even as someone who didn't hate the Wii U, I think the Wii U walked so the Switch could run in some ways, and I like the Wii U for what it was. But man, even by Wii U standards, 2016 was such a dark year to be a Nintendo fan.
It was horrible.
It was the year
Oh,
of Mario
man.
Tennis Ultra Smash,
Oh,
Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Like, that was such a depressing year to be a Nintendo
I think we
fan.
got Pokken Tournament that year. That was like one of the only bright spots.
Yes.
hmm
Yes.
Was that the year of Star Fox Zero as well?
I
I
want to
think-
say that was
I think
2015.
I think that was when it was coming out. Yeah, it was 2016.
Was it?
It was
2016?
2016.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Star Fox Zero, I think, made that year even worse
Yeah.
by having one of my favorite series, my favorite cast of characters,
Yeah.
and just rub their faces in poop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it
You
was
totally
the
do.
worst thing that could have happened. There are
Yeah.
a lot of things I even like about Star Fox Zero, but man, what a disappointing thing. And it just made the Wii U era even more sour.
Yeah, the 3DS was doing so much carrying and heavy lifting for Nintendo during that time when it had become a very established and fantastic little console.
Mhm.
And then the
Oh, my
Wii
bad.
U,
I got my years mixed up. Alpha Lion said Mario Tennis and Amiibo Festival were 2015. So my bad. 2015 and 16 were both really dark years.
it was not a fun time, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's scary to think what would have happened with Nintendo had the Switch not taken off the way that it did. Like what would have happened if this concept just didn't land, and if we just had like another couple, another year of, or not another whole generation of a console that just didn't really work out. But thankfully, the entirety of that led to one of the most popular consoles ever released ever, and that just gives more pressure to whatever comes next. And so it's a weird situation that we're sitting in right now. I don't expect it. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think of Iwata when talking about this, because
Mhm.
as we know, he had a lot to do with getting the Switch ready, despite passing away when he did. I think a lot of the success should be attributed to him and the people he worked with. And it's sad that he didn't get to see that he left the company in a good place. Like, he didn't go knowing that it was going to be okay. And
Yeah.
that's sad to think about.
Yeah,
It is.
they were.
Yeah.
It was just uncertain at the time, and yeah, it's great to know at least at this point that like that legacy's been carried on by one of the most successful consoles that Nintendo's ever made. So at least it has a happy ending to that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm just waiting to see what's gonna happen next, what comes next, because we still don't know. we're reaching the point where it's not looking like we're going to find out about the Switch 2 this year because we're coming up on holiday season very soon, and Nintendo's got one more year of selling us those Mario Kart 8 Deluxe packages with Switch in it. They got one more year to shell these out, and they're going to take advantage of it.
We've also gotten news of Super Mario Party Jamboree's launch week sales being excellent, like series defining. In Japan, it had its best first week ever for any game in the series since its inception, and it's like they could probably keep selling the Switch One and bundles with like Mario Kart and Mario Party, whatever, for the foreseeable future if they wanted to. I mean, obviously we're coming up in the Switch 2 finally, but it's crazy just how much staying power this thing has had.
It's also interesting to note. I don't know if either of you or if anyone in our chat got a chance to watch John's video today, where he was talking about Nintendo hiding the developers that makes their games, not revealing them. And he made a point that I didn't think about, and that's that most of the games this year were not in-house Nintendo games. They were either partnered studios or studios that Nintendo owns. So, the teams that would be working on something like a Mario or another new mainline Zelda that's not Echoes of Wisdom, things like that, they didn't happen this year. And I think that's very telling that they are hard at work working on those titles for the Switch 2 launch window.
Yeah.
So, like, it's still clear that we're winding down despite all these great games getting, great sales and turning out good. It's still clear that we're approaching the end here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see how well they're doing too. Like we just seen one of them recently. We had like a 5-minute trailer for Mario and Luigi Brothership. Recently found out that that's being developed by Acquire, which are the Octopath devs. So a lot of it's cool to think that the team of Alpha Dream is now working for for Acquire now and working on this game supposedly. And it just looks fantastic. It looks like there's so much character, there's so much personality in this game, and I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna, if it's one of the last big Switch games to come out, it's setting it off on a really major one. But yeah, there's still.
I don't
more
want the Switch to go out on Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
That is true. We might also have that be. That might also be the case
because that port doesn't look very good.
That can't be the last true Switch One original project. Well, not
there's no way.
Project,
well, Pokemon's happening still. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Right. I forgot about Legends EA. Yeah, that's happening.
And
the thing about Pokemon though is like that. I love Pokemon Legends. I have made that abundantly clear on GVG. But I think I'd rather play that on the new Switch, where it would run better.
That's kind of how I feel about Prime 4 as well. Like, I do strongly believe Prime 4 will be a cross-gen title, but I would rather wait to play it on Switch 2, I think.
If they released it on Switch 1 first, and then it comes on Switch 2 later, that's going to hurt me. I'm going to want to play that right away. I'm that kind of person.
I will. I'm going to play it on Switch 1. If it's a staggered release, I'm going to have to. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go as far as replaying Breath of the Wild if if it ends up getting a enhanced port or just an update that makes it run better. Like, I haven't replayed Breath of the Wild since it came out. And I did that very intentionally because we found out very quickly that Tears of the Kingdom was on the way, and I was like, I'm going to forget about as much of this map as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Basically.
Which is what I did. But now on an enhanced hardware with a, better frame rate, better resolution, be a great time to go back and re-experience that game.
Oh,
I'm curious, why Breath of the Wild and not Tears of the Kingdom? Like, why do you want to go and re-experience Breath of the Wild again with better performance and such?
Tears is so fresh in my mind still.
Sure.
I like giving games a few years where I can kind of forget some things and then go back with fresh eyes.
Right.
Like going from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom is great for me because the most exciting thing about the game was just seeing what changed in the world. And now I can have the reverse experience and be like, oh yeah, this is what it used to look like.
Right. I think a game that I'd like to go back and re-experience with better performance on that note is Age of Calamity. And despite all the tech issues, that actually still is my favorite Zelda Warriors game, I should say. Probably my favorite Warriors game, period. but man, that game sank to like 15 FPS, if that sometimes. And as much as I love that game, playing it with better performance, I think would be a completely different experience.
I adored Age of Calamity start to
Yeah,
finish. I
same.
absolutely devoured that game. Um, it did some things for me that I wish Breath of the Wild had done, given us more time with the characters, just let them
Yeah,
be themselves. And I enjoyed that. And I don't care about whether or not it's canon. Like they're just the characters. Let them do stuff.
yeah,
So I
Yeah.
enjoyed it for that reason. Um, but yeah, I talked about this before, but I wanted to play it 2-player with my wife. I had a lot of
right.
fun playing the original Hyrule Warriors in co-op, just couch co-op with a friend. So I was looking forward to that with Age of Calamity, but uh, it runs even worse than you could imagine
I
in
can't imagine. Yeah,
local split screen. I don't even know why they put it in there. It ran so poorly. Like, why even why even bother?
yeah.
I've never played Age of Calamity with 2 players as 2-player mode, but I can only imagine if you're like playing as Urbosa, because the lightning effects really are what chugs
Mhm.
that down, like, even worse. So I can't imagine
Uh,
how many, like, you could just make a slideshow happen with 2 players using Urbosa at that point. I can just imagine.
It's such a shame too, because Urbosa has one of the most fun movesets, being able to like expend lightning and then immediately suck it back up if you time it
uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think
There's
she and Mifa were the two characters I enjoyed playing most. I think I played Mifa the most, and Urbosa was my second most played character.
I think Mifa was one of the strongest characters
Yeah, she was
to
really
use
good.
in
Her
that game.
ability to like move between her water
Yeah,
spouts or whatever was broken
she
good.
was nuts. Yeah, she was
I was
so good.
I was so sad the DLC came out so much later because hardly anybody I know ever played with Zelda on the bike on the Master Cycle,
Oh, right.
or
Yeah.
Robbie and Pura that were their own character as well. So
I wish there had been a more convenient way to just like refresh the map from start and just play with your new characters. Like obviously you
mhm.
can just go and select a mission and replay it, but I don't know. There's something about watching that map expand that does something to my brain.
I hear you.
There's something about even going back to like the original Hyrule Warriors, when you're playing and you're filling out that entire world map, just little by little, get something filled out. It feels like you're completing something and working towards unlocking a new skin or something, for example.
Yeah.
Nothing tickles my brain more than a check mark in a video game. I am
Uh-huh.
check mark pilled.
Check marks and damage numbers for me. When I see damage numbers pop up over an enemy, my brain just tickles the pleasure center in my brain whenever I see damage numbers on anything.
it's
Um,
it's
but yeah,
definitely.
oh, good.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead.
Age of Calamity struck a really perfect balance, in my opinion, between like it wasn't just content to death, like in the original Hyrule Warriors, or especially Definitive Edition, where there's just so much to do that it's just way too much and way too overwhelming. Whereas with the Age of Calamity, there's a lot of content, but it always felt within reach. It always felt like there was just enough, but not too much, you know?
The game fed you its content in a really smart way. Like you would
Yeah.
do a chapter and then you would get a small selection of side quests. So I imagine you did this too. Like I would play a chapter, then I'd play the accompanying side quests,
Yeah.
then I'd play the next chapter and repeat until the game was over.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just slowly giving you new things to do instead of dumping a bucket of content on you.
Yeah.
Much nicer.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh,
so
such a
good.
great
But
game.
yeah, that's
And
definitely
oh,
something we can look forward to going into the next console generation, is games like that can just play and run better, because it's
Yeah.
pretty certain that the next console will be backwards compatible given the format
yeah.
of the Switch. So if it's not, there's going to be a lot of words being said if that's
I
not
would
the
be
case.
devastated. I would just be devastated.
There's no
Yeah.
way. That would be such a massive unforced error. I categorically refuse to believe Nintendo would make that giant a mistake with the Switch 2. There's no way back
Especially
to that is not on
es-
the table.
especially if they call it Switch 2. If you
Yeah.
call it Switch 2 and there's no backwards compatibility, I
Yeah.
am throwing you directly into the garbage.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a bit too soon to say this because we haven't played the game yet, but from all the trailers we've seen, it is pretty clear to me, and I think we would all agree, that Brothership is looking to have some incredible animation, like just unbelievable. But we also can tell from the trailers that it is a 30 FPS game, hopefully a stable 30. But that is a game where if the animation really is that amazing throughout, that is a game that I can see going back to play in 60 FPS and Switch 2 and just being utterly blown away by how gorgeous it all is in 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have any of the other Mario and Luigi games been in 60 FPS? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure the first 3 at least were. I don't know about Dream
yeah,
Team
I mean, Game Boy
and
Advance. That's
it's GBA.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they were, but I'm not sure about Dream Team or Paper Jam.
Superstar Saga Remake was 60 FPS. That's right, because
Okay.
you couldn't turn on 3D in that game.
Right.
oh yeah.
You remember
That's
being
true.
really upset about it at the time, yeah. Just because Dream Team looks so fantastic in 3D.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that game. Time kind of got away from me. I didn't realize it was less than 2 weeks out. So I prepared. I got myself a pair of Switch vouchers. I don't even know what I'm going to use the second one on.
Okay, nice.
But I
Donkey
got
Kong
it pre-ordered.
Country Return.
No, I don't think so. Don't think that's happening.
I hope that's looking better the next time we see it. They've got to
do too.
be. I think it will, right? There's no way it's going to be as bland as it looked in that first reveal trailer. There's just no
It has some issues that they need to iron out. Like,
yeah.
I like the game a lot. I just want to play it in a state where it deserves to be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like the original Returns quite. I mean, I liked it so much. I 100%ed it on both Wii and 3DS. So clearly, it's a game that I like. But yes, I agree. The remaster we saw left something to be desired in at least in the trailer footage. So hopefully, the fact that it's still a little ways out means it's going to be looking better.
I just want time to play these games. Like we were having
I
Brandon and
hear ya.
I were having a discussion earlier that we'll have on the channel eventually, early next week. But we were discussing how everything is just releasing too fast now. I'm trying to play like five other games right now.
Dude, I hear you. If you need a third, let me know because I'd be happy to talk about that.
The entirety of Metaphor is a long game, so I'm just chipping away at that when I can every day. I'm at the island at this point with my 5th party member, going into the main dungeon in that place to give you an idea of how far I'm into the game. But
I'm so upset because like I bought Metaphor after finishing the demo because I was so jazzed. I was having such a good time. And then the playtest program started, and then I had to divert my attention to that, and I'm really enjoying that. And then Dragon Ball Sparking Zero came out 2 weeks ago, and I put like 60 hours into that. I can't keep up. I started Banjo-Tooie before we did the show.
Oh no.
I watched the 3-hour opening cutscene so that I could get the game started.
It's not 3 hours. It's only 2 hours long. It's not that bad.
I actually, slight tangent. As a kid, my first time playing Banjo-Tooie, I had played and beaten Banjo-Kazooie, and I loved it. One time, my parents took me to McDonald's because they were going to have Ronald McDonald was going to be there. Ooh,
oh man,
Ronald McDonald! You want to go meet him?
Wow, celebrity.
So then I went in there, and Ronald was saying hi to people, and I saw an N64 demo station with Banjo-Tooie on it, and I said,
nice.
I'm gonna go do that instead.
That's way more interesting.
Well, it would have been, but there were no save files on it, so I had to start the game fresh. And I just watched the opening cutscene, and by the time it finally ended and I was able to control Banjo, my parents wanted to go home.
Oh, no. Just enough to get you... Yeah, oh, that sucks.
So I have a slight grudge against Banjo-Tooie for childhood trauma-related reasons.
No, I get that.
Well... It's funny, I was leading up to that because I was saying how there's so many things to play. I want to play Metaphor. I really was able to finish Echoes of Wisdom on time. F-Zero Climax came out. F-Zero 99 had their events happening. Sonic Shadow Generations is out now, and we're going to get other games coming soon. But yeah, Banjo-Tooie also released, and that's something that I've been dying to play as well on NS. So one of the titles that I told myself, okay, Rare, if you're gonna release another Rare title, please make it Banjo-Tooie at this point, because you have Banjo-Kazooie, you might as well do the sequel as well. And so yeah, I've been wanting to do a video on that, just talking about it and talking about why Tooie is the better Banjo game. So I'm
Ooh,
sure
that's an
that
interesting
there's
take.
going to be a lot of people that might want to hear a little bit more about that. But no, I genuinely think it's a better game. So
I'll continue to be the lone man in the Diddy Kong Racing waiting room.
no. So this means that now that I'm out of the Banjo-Tooie waiting room, I can now join Brandon in the Diddy Kong Racing.
I'm right there
waiting
with
room
you, man. I
instead.
love Diddy Kong Racing. Let's go. I
I've
want
got-
Join
that
me,
to happen
gentlemen.
So bad. Yeah.
I've got what I wanted, and so now I want others to now. Well, if it had shown
I-
up sooner, I would have been happy for you too. But still,
I am legitimately happy that Banjo-Tooie ended up on here because it's a game that I've never gotten to really give a solid chance to. I mean,
Mhm.
I told you the story of my childhood, my
Mhm.
sad tale. So yeah, I'm glad that it's here. Also cool that the widescreen mode works.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was really impressed that that was just in there and functioning the way it was supposed to. And as much as I make fun of how long the opening cutscene is, it's great, by the way. But also they reinserted the lag into the opening cutscene so that the music's timed correctly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
cool.
work right in the Rare Replay version, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think I remember that being the case, even though I do think in general the Xbox versions are the best versions of the games. Yeah, there was some weird stuff going on there with the cutscene and music timing.
It's so funny when the developers take the time to actually, notably change that sort of stuff, because I think Majora's Mask also had some of that as well when the moon was
Mhm.
falling and the giants come to catch it.
Oh, yeah.
They had to make it lag a bit so that the audio lines up, because that's a very impactful moment with the music playing at the same time. And then Banjo-Tooie is just the goofiest intro music you ever heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, very much looking forward to playing Tooie and just getting some words out. But no, for those people who are playing this game for the first time, I'll tell you a secret right now as to why one of the things that makes this game better. If you go to, this is something you can do as early as Mayhem Temple. There's the little temple in which you can break with the Goliath's foot, and you go inside, and it's where you put all the Cheeto codes inside there.
Mhm.
One of the complaints about this game is that it's too big. The areas are too wide. There's too much to explore, and it takes forever to get to one place to another. So you go inside the temple, and throughout the game, you can get Cheeto pages where you can unlock codes to get more ammunition, other side things, and you give those to Cheeto, and he'll give you a code to put in there. There are some codes that do not are not unlocked with Cheeto. There are some things you just kind of have to be in the know about. And so you go inside the temple, you shoot Cheeto first, you just spell out Cheeto, and then after that, you spell Super Banjo. And if you do that, it unlocks a code in which Banjo moves at like twice the speed. And that makes
I
covering
knew that.
that makes covering the ground so much better when you're when you're on Kazooie as well. You explore the areas everywhere. It makes the world seem smaller, but not in a bad way, because it feels like that's the movement speed Banjo should have had at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, that's a game changer. Literally, I didn't know about this.
Yeah, it's a code that I literally learned this in like a Nintendo Power magazine way back then, because that's not something that they tell you inside the game. I don't think they tell you at all in the game. There's also one called Super Baddie that I also put on because it makes all the enemies run around twice as fast too, which is kind
Oh,
of
no.
terrifying.
Yeah.
But anyone that's getting into this game, I know it's not fair to use a cheat code to fix a game, but it makes it much more playable by doing Super Banjo. That's my favorite code that I like to tell people to put into this game and try out.
I mean, if there's a baked-in way to make the game better, why not use it?
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel about the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, right? Anything that lets you save time, especially as an adult when when you don't have as much gaming time, cut down on traversal time or
Oh.
grinding. Hell yeah, go for it.
So Sylph in chat right now is saying you can't use that. You cannot save when you have that code. That is true for the Rare Replay version.
Oh.
If you use Super Banjo, you cannot save anymore. I don't know. It has something to do with high scores and online rankings and all that, which I don't care about. In the original, it doesn't matter. In the original N64 version, you can save because it doesn't have that online weird ranking stuff involved in it. So
Okay.
that's one of the things that I was really annoyed about with the rare replays, that I couldn't play the game I wanted to because I had been Super Banjo. I had played the game and it was like the quick save where you just kind of turn the system off and you come back to it. But when I fully closed it, I was like back another 4 hours because I hadn't properly saved. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this again. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that code fully works. And all you also just do save states in the NSO version as well. But yeah, please use that, Brandon, before you judge the game for what it is.
I've only ever played like through that first world, I think. And I was definitely feeling the heat of having to run around everywhere.
Yeah.
So I definitely look forward to playing it in a more comfortable way.
Yeah, I got to try that myself.
It's it's part of the reason why I'll hold this game better, because it's sad you have to use a cheat code to make it playable, quote unquote. But yeah. Anyways, I talked about Banjo probably enough at this point. I'll talk about it more when I do this little discussion with all of y'all on the channel. By myself,
Yeah.
rather. It's just a video I'm gonna have. But that aside, we don't want to forget about our Patron topics tonight. We'll do a few quick ones real now because we're already coming up towards an hour, and I don't want to keep everyone waiting too long. But yeah, if you are part of our executive producer tier, you can submit questions and ask
Actually,
us.
producer tier, regular producer tier.
Producer tier, you can ask us questions every week, and we will take those questions and we'll have a little discussion on those topics. So, Brandon, let's start with you. What is your topic for this week?
So mine comes from Vedron, and Vedron asks, "What was the scariest thing that happened to you in context as a kid, game, or otherwise? Was it silly in context looking back?" Um, I have one memory in particular that to this day I can't explain. I was probably just dreaming though. Like, if I'm gonna be real, I was probably just dreaming. But
I thought
you
we
know,
already had your scariest story with the Ronald McDonald Banjo-Tooie trip.
no, it gets worse.
Okay.
I may have even talked about this before, but we're gonna talk about Diddy Kong Racing again. I have a very I have an explicit, like, vivid memory of turning on the N64 with Banjo-Kazooie in the cartridge slot, and it just opening on Wizpig's head,
What?
like the mountain, and he's just there, and he just laughs, and nothing else can happen. I couldn't progress the game. I couldn't do anything. He was just laughing. His big old mountain head was just laughing at me.
This
That
sounds
sounds
like
like a
So
a
creepypasta.
nightmare. Like, was your copy personalized, Brandon?
I don't know.
Wizpig.exe?
I turned it off, and then I turned it back on, and it happened again. So I turned it off a second time, and it may have been the third or fourth time where I turned it on, and suddenly it was just fine.
Are you sure this
I
wasn't a dream of some sort?
I to this day I don't know for sure, but in the moment I was pretty sure that it just happened to me. But you never know. Maybe I was dreaming. It's a way more likely explanation than Wizpig just deciding he's going to laugh at me indefinitely.
I am
Sounds terrifying.
I'm in shock and awe at how much this sounds similar to an experience I had also on the N64. Of course we would, Brandon. This is just the way we're meant. Our lives are meant to align. But before
Mind
that,
melded.
I'll let Ash go first before I go with mine.
Okay, so I don't. Do we agree? Like, do we agree or disagree? Does it count if this is something that happened in my late teens? Does it have to be something that happened as a kid, or can it be something?
I would consider your late teens to be a kid too.
Okay, so then it's pretty easy for me. If I think I was probably anywhere from 17 to 19, right? I don't know exactly, maybe 16 to 19. But I was in a hotel. I had traveled to go to Otakon that year, and I was supposed to go home the next day. So I was staying in a hotel before I went to the airport the next morning, and I had my first ever night terror, and it was so extremely terrifying that I've never forgotten it, and I hope I never have another experience like that again. I mean, I've had other night terror-esque experiences, but nothing quite like the one that I had that night, and it was one of those things where, if you've had a night terror before, you kind of know where this is going, maybe. But it's like one of those things where you're awake and you can sense that you're awake, but you can't move. Your body is paralyzed, and you
Sleep
can't
paralysis.
kind of, yeah, like sleep paralysis. But you also can't yell. You can't make any sounds. You can't scream. Like you're trying to make a sound, and it comes out like it's really bad. And so I remember specifically, it was like probably 5 a.m., 6 a.m., just the barest glimmer of light in the room. So there's just enough morning light in the room to where I could make out the forms of things. And that was about it. And I became aware of a figure at the foot of the bed to my right, like kind of in the corner of the room, that was like, it looked like a woman with long hair covering her face. And I just could see this figure slowly kind of just floating in front of me and getting closer and closer to me, to the foot of the, next to my side of the bed. And I was just following it with my eyes, and I was trying to yell and I couldn't yell. I was trying to move and I couldn't move. And then she just got right down into my face and just she had like holes where her eyes were supposed to be, this giant smile, and she just went right into my face. And then I could see her reaching and like into like my stomach. And I was like screaming and terrified, even though I couldn't actually make any noise. And then she was like right in my face and like reaching into my stomach, I woke up and I was like, oh, okay. I'm actually like, okay, she's not there anymore. I'm okay. But I'm getting chills even thinking about it now. And it scared me so much that when I got home, I told my parents about it, and I said, look, this might sound stupid, but I want to get a screening of my stomach to make sure that wasn't like a, you know, something telling me, the universe telling me I've got stomach cancer or something, because it was just that terrifying. And I've never forgotten it. I wish I could. But clearly it's something that, other people have gone through similar variations of, because if you Google image search night terrors, you'll find very, very similar, like, ghostly figures to the one that haunted me. And nothing else in my life comes close to that.
When people talk about their sleep paralysis demon, they're talking about literally what you just described.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've also experienced sleep paralysis before, I think on 2 occasions.
Oof.
And it is legitimately terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you cannot move, you cannot speak. You are just, whatever your brain decided to concoct that time, that's what you're going to bear witness to.
Yeah. And I don't know why it was that in my experience. I wish it hadn't been. But did you have the demon as well?
For me, mine was more like a Slender Man-esque figure. Not that Slender Man didn't even exist at the time. It was just a tall, dark figure. He was to this side of me, to my left, and I was looking straight ahead. I didn't even want to look at it, but I could see it there. Yeah, for Brandon, it was Wizpig. But yeah, if you've ever had sleep paralysis, it's horrifying, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
It's really, it's really that bad. Yeah. So that's my story for sure. That's an easy, scariest thing that's happened to me as in my younger years.
I don't think I've ever had this sort of like sleep paralysis. Probably because I should have probably just slept more in general, so I never really had
it. Your brain's still in its sleep state, filled with whatever fluid occupies your brain at the time, but you wake up before that's drained out, which is why you can't move, because your brain function hasn't kickstarted yet.
Oh,
so
wow.
Your dream and reality just become one for a few minutes, and it's awful.
It's terrifying.
Disturbing. I don't know. Just thinking about brain fluid just makes me, anything that makes me feel like how
your brain's just taking a shower.
How vulnerable I am. I'm just like, oh, stop! I don't want to think about that part. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that's nearly as like terrifying as the sleep paralysis demon. Thankfully, I mean, I've had experiences playing games in which they kind of like, I'm a scaredy boy, so I can't play terror anything really. But so as a kid, the games that were, meant for kids, or that you maybe wouldn't have scary moments in them, they stuck with me. One of the first ones I remember was playing Ocarina of Time with my cousin. She was playing it for the first time. I was kind of just watching her play because it was her copy, but she was visiting constantly over at my place because we had to watch over her. And we were playing Ocarina of Time together. And when we got to the Royal Tomb, is the first place where you see the Redeads, and it's just there's this tiny little place. You hear them moaning. it's the green fluids are on the ground and it's like sizzling upwards and it's very unsettling. The music is very like ambient and scary. And we're just like, I don't know if I want to go through this place. I don't. Can we go back the other way? But there's got to be something in there. And God, that's when my imagination was a little bit too insane back then. Because like I was very uncomfortable in the dark, and I would feel like my bed was kind of elevated back then. I wasn't an only child, but I had like an elevated bed so that I could store things underneath it. And so I feel like sometimes I could hear something standing up, rising on that side, like just
Oh
on the
no.
side of the bed, and I would just picture that Redead's face because it's like the wooden mask with the holes inside of it, and it just looks very unsettling. Which is funny to think about now, because like Shy Guy is my favorite character in Mario Party, and he's the same design, just holes in his face.
He's a cute
I
Redead.
love Shy Guys. Yeah.
He makes me feel happy. So I maybe that's how I worked past it, is with Shy Guy's help. The other actual one that kind of relates to what Brandon had, it was also at nighttime. I don't know what it was. I I was asleep and the door is always like cracked just a little bit open so that hallway light can come through, but the hallway light was off that night, and so um, I could have sworn someone you know when you kind of hear the door open, but you just kind of feel the wind blow past when somebody opens the door and it's very
Yeah.
quiet. But I swear, I was like half asleep, but I heard, and Brandon will know this, the laugh from Cross Stitch in Glover. I could have sworn,
Oh no.
like somebody looked at it. That is a terrifying MIDI laugh that is kind of
It is
silly now,
scary.
but when you listen to it out of context, like I was half asleep, half waking up, but I swear I heard the door open and that like the second half of that laugh came through, and I was like, is someone there? It's terrifying.
That's actually awful.
That is one of the creepiest laughs in a game, and you hear that constantly when you're like wandering around the main hub. And yeah,
Man.
I know I recently rented that game out from Blockbuster. I never owned it myself, but I rented it for sure, and that's something that stuck with me. Just weird things in older games that scare me back then. Another small
Sure.
one that scared me back then was Clanker, in Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh yeah.
You just swim down there. He's a nice dude, but my God, that face when you see him is like, I'm gonna die.
Oh, I know. And when you have to dive super deep to unplug him, and it's like you get that depth, that sense of like sheer depth that you're really can you dive down deep enough and still make it up before drowning? Like you really have to dive down deep, and it's very suffocating.
They even Rare is fantastic at this. They even add like that movie sound, like that one note monotone shrill sound that you hear when something is very tense and about to happen in like a movie.
Uh-huh.
They play that when you're way down there too, and it's very
They do.
unnerving.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing is just, yeah, the kids games back then, N64 games, I have a history with those and the things that they scared me on way back then.
The thing with like, I mean, you talked about the Redeads in the Royal Family Tomb. I was also afraid of that as a kid because I hated Redeads and I didn't want to hear them scream.
Yeah.
Dead Hand never bothered me though for some reason. But I was gonna say, there's something about low poly, like
hmm
fog on N64. Just there's something about that elevates the tenseness.
Hmm.
I think that's why like low budget indie horror games are so popular right now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're able to lean into that really well.
Like Silent Hill 1 has those really creepy, low poly, deformed monster models that just the less you know about what something really what the true
Yeah.
nature of it is, the scarier it is, you know?
There's more left to your imagination that way.
Right.
So it's as scary as you can imagine it to be.
That's
And as a kid,
yeah.
it's way worse.
Mhm.
That's exactly that psychological horror that fascinates me more so than the jump scare kind of horror. That's like in your face.
I love psychological horror.
Oh, same. Dude, like I said to you before, Brandon, it's coming out soon. Fear the Spotlight. Do not miss that game, dude. That's one of the ones I played at Summer Game Fest. And it's exactly that PS1 era, low poly, psychological horror game. And I loved it. I can't wait.
I'm on board. I haven't
Yeah.
played a spooky game yet. I share a PSN account with a friend of mine, and he's like, I'm gonna buy Silent Hill 2, play something spooky before Halloween. I'm like, I got 6 days left to get some spooky in, so come on.
The remake of Silent Hill 2, when you can get around to it, they did such a great job with it, man. I'm working on that as well. Speaking of way too many games coming out at once, I'm working on that alongside like 3 other games right now, and then there's like Dragon Quest next week, and then Mario and Luigi. Jesus,
Fun times, and it's like a week from Halloween already. It's crazy how much time just speeds on by. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that question, John. How about Ash? We have a question from you as well, don't we? Are you ready?
Yes. So my question comes from a drink to the past. I feel like you have to say it like that. The GVG crew. This is really fun. The GVG crew has to form a band. You need one each on a lead guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, and everybody else has to be a roadie. The panel of this episode gets to assign everybody's roles, and there's no takesies backsies when members who didn't appear tonight return. They miss their chances to defend themselves. So I just like how out of left field this one is. I've never seen a question like this, so I'm like, I have to pick this. This is so good.
I guess we're deciding who plays what instrument in Rock Band. Is that what's happening?
Basically, and then 2 of us who aren't, are going to be roadies. I don't know if that's going to be one of us here or off the panel. For me, I guess since it's my question, I'm hoping that means I get first dibs. I have always entertained dreams of playing drums. I've always wanted to be a musician in general, but I feel like percussion has always been like my real passion where instruments are concerned. And so I've always entertained fantasies of being a drummer. And I think that would be super cool. So I pick drums. I got drums. I don't know about how you guys feel, but I got drums.
Brandon and I are just gonna pick the same one. Watch. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay.
Tell me what instrument.
I was gonna take vocals actually.
Oh, okay. There you go.
All right.
I have a little bit of history with singing. I definitely need some practice before I can lead a band. But I think I can't play any instruments very well, so I'm left with my voice.
You do have an impressive voice. You've been doing plenty with that recently, and so that does make more sense. So to be vocal.
Thank you.
What
what were you gonna pick then, Daniel?
I was gonna probably say bass in my case. I also constantly would play bass when my friends were around playing Rock Band as well. When that was like the big thing to play back then, we were carrying all the plastic instruments all around everywhere. But yeah, that's probably the one I would play. Bassy guy. I don't want to take up all the spotlight, but I also don't want to like not contribute. Bass is an important part to the band ensemble, so that's probably where I would land.
All right, that just leaves our lead guitarist and then our 2 roadies. So out of Derek, John, and Steve, who do we think would be on lead guitar?
I don't think Derek would want to be on stage.
I don't think so either.
I think he'd rather be a roadie. So we're gonna let Derek be a roadie in that case. For lead guitar, I feel like Steve has a little bit of that energy, but so does John.
They both kind of do, right?
I think they have to fight to the death.
Fair enough. Settle it in Smash. Well, then, but that way Steve is almost assured to lose because he says he sucks at Smash. So it's got to be something else.
well, chat. What do you think? John would be the triangle player.
Put John on keyboard or something.
Tuxping says John gives off keytar vibes for some reason. I could see that if keytar was an option, I might actually have picked that, but keytar was not an option in the question as it was presented.
Can John sing bass? Can we have multiple singers?
You both can do vocals.
There we go. John can sing too, because he's going to be able to hit notes that I certainly cannot.
So I'm sorry to say though, a drink to the past said 1 each, no doubling up. It's got to be
Well,
here we go. Here's what I've decided.
Okay.
Hey Siri, flip a coin.
Uh-oh.
Steve's the lead guitar.
All right.
And so it was decided.
Siri decided it for us. So okay,
our fellow
Derek
band
and John
manager.
roadies. Okay.
John could slay an a cappella group.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry for everyone whose Siri got activated sorry that we're saying this.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's funny. Sorry.
If you're listening not on headphones, yeah.
Question aside, though, then it's just like a slight aside. I have more seriously, I don't know how I would ever have the time to actually do this, but I have a genuine interest in learning to DJ and like play local shows and stuff like that. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I do genuinely. I'd love to become like an amateur DJ. That truly, genuinely interests me a lot.
Oh
Just get
man.
yourself a little bit of equipment and then bang your head against it until you get something that works.
Yeah, I would definitely be in the. Obviously, I would be in like the chiptune space. That's what I would want to do. But yeah, I just have an interest in doing some
Is
DJing.
there a DJ Rockman?
That's what Tuxfang just said. And Alpha Line. I don't know if there is.
Do we need to claim that quickly?
There has to be
Hurry up.
DJ Rock.
Grab that on Blue Sky before someone else takes it.
Yeah, there's someone named DJ Rockman. Yeah.
Well, what if you had like a co-DJ and you were Rockman and bass?
Ooh, I like that. Would it have to be Forte though?
I guess that's true.
Yeah, but still, I mean, nothing wrong with that. But yes, there is a
Well.
DJ Rockman on Twitter and SoundCloud and Instagram, and yeah.
Well, with the band assignments all settled and everything, I think we're good for one more question real quick. Thank you, A Drink to the Past, for your question.
Yes, thank you.
This one won't be too long because I really just wanted to address this because this was almost going to be a news topic for me to bring up, but I also just figured we could just discuss it here. It's from Disney Duncan, who was asking, with Sakurai's YouTube channel over, what is your favorite video from his channel and why? Masahiro Sakurai, of course, developer for games like Kirby and Meteos and of course Super Smash Brothers, has finally wrapped up production on his entire YouTube channel, like over 260 videos or so throughout the last couple of years. Very impressive. It is out there. It's for free. He didn't monetize it at all. He did it all out of the
Crazy.
amazing.
Which he seems to slightly regret.
Yeah, he actually, in the final video that he did, he's like, that was kind of a weird idea. I'm kind of regretting doing that now. But at this point, it is all out there. And it is a fantastic reference for anybody, really, to people who are getting into game dev, those in the business looking inward. Anyone, and people like me, like artists who are looking at this sort of stuff. It's fascinating. So many creative fields can look into this and gain something from it, which is exactly what he wanted to have, and I think he accomplished with this channel on making games. And it's hard to pick a single video, but he does have categories. Like there's categories for like audio, for game dev, for programming. And the one that always sticks with me, obviously, would be the one for graphics. He has so many videos on graphics themselves. And it's all on, the smallest things, from like distinguishing visual cues, keeping things easy to read, and also like just getting settings and getting a picture of a setting of like in a storyboard format, and he would just edit those to get the lighting just right, just correct. One of the final videos that he did was on Sora, and on that category, and just getting feedback, supervising how Sora should move, how he should articulate, and when an action looks like something Sora would do versus one that's not, like exaggerating the poses. And there's such small little details, like from the tilt of his head or the angle of his arm, that just makes all the difference. And that sort of like love and attention is something that I feel like only Sakurai and his team can do. But yeah, there's so many things like from that. I love the ones, like most of this actually has to do with game dev footage, like developer footage of Smash Brothers Ultimate in like animation, frames and whatnots, looping those frames in keyframes, the art of pixel animation and pixel arts. There's so many little things about this, like looking up close on stages and whatnots, little details that you shouldn't be able to know. Of course, I noticed that there's one of the thumbnails that has the Chermina Bay stage on there. And in the very corner off to the side, there's a harp piece that would actually be there in the game. Most people are never going to see that harp piece,
so
but
cool.
it's there for those who go looking for it.
Yeah.
And so
I love
just
that.
seeing that kind of incredible attention to detail throughout his videos was just always so fascinating. And yeah, of course, one of the final videos also released was on Iwata. That's a very good one. I think people should watch to get a little more insight on Iwata, their relationship, even their last meeting together. He goes over that as well.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just that whole channel is a treat. But have you guys kept up with this at all? Brandon, have you kept up, and do you have any favorite videos of Sakurai on this?
I've watched almost every video on the channel. I think I have like the last 30 or 40 to get through. I did watch the
Mhm.
finale as well as the Iwata video. Um,
Same.
but I mean, like you, I mean, we're both motion graphic designers, so like, there's a lot to learn from the videos on animation too. It's like even though we're not animating characters most of the time, like those principles still apply,
Mhm.
and we can apply that to our work, and I greatly value that. But despite that, I think my favorite videos from Sakurai were almost always from the grab bag category,
Mhm.
where Sakurai just made a video about something he wanted to make a video about. Like, that's Sakurai in his purest form, and I think that was the most enjoyable for me as a viewer. Um, One that I really liked was just him going over how he stores all his games. Like,
I
that
love
was
that one.
just that was just really entertaining. I really liked to see how he did that. His custom made cabinet for his game consoles that he had two of made. Um, just fantastic. But in obviously recency bias is going to play into this, but his final video, the 40-minute video detailing the journey of his YouTube channel, is one of the most fascinating things he's ever uploaded. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's insane what he did to make this happen.
S
Especially in those first few minutes when he pulls the rug and he's like, "Actually, I made these 2.5 years ago, or I filmed all this 2.5 years ago."
I had a break
Um,
between working on a game, and I decided I'm going to make one of the most comprehensive videos that game designers and artists and everyone can look at ever, just on a whim,
He's
almost.
and
just
then
that
he
man is just an alien. He has to be.
just casually drops that his current game is 2.5 years in development already.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
To put it into perspective,
Yeah.
like, I think 3 years was Ultimate's dev cycle.
And the
Pretty
part of that
much.
video where he goes into his daily schedule is just like that man's work ethic is just and he still has time to play games somehow. How did you keep up with games on top of that? Like, how is that possible?
Makes it work. Crazy.
Just don't understand.
Man, and
Um,
this
man,
channel was also like the almost the equivalent of $600,000 to produce between editing, arts, thumbnails, all that sort of thing. Because they're very well produced. There's a lot of customized art throughout all of these, and they're very charming. But my goodness, even he was like, "Oh, it's a little bit more than I thought it was going to be," but I think it was worth it.
I'm glad he paid his video editors. As a video editor, it's
yeah,
nice to see someone get paid what they're worth.
seriously.
Nice.
Um, I can't imagine what it would be like to work for Sakurai, because he is such a meticulous person. I saw like how many revisions some of those episodes and even the thumbnails would go through. And I'm like, he would work you into the ground to get the best possible thing out of you. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Mhm.
Like, he's going to pull the best possible work out of you that he can. Um, Having someone lead you like that is an incredibly, like, it's a privileged position to be in.
Mhm.
Because he clearly also cares about people. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't look like he's just a workhorse. Um, I'd love to know, just if I were to work for him for even a few weeks, what would change about how I work and how I
God, yeah.
perform.
There's so much about Sakurai that he learned and has been applying from his time with Iwata as well, as you learn through his videos too. Like being patient with people, but also like, these people can pull out, you know, the most creative possible aspects of them in their work. And so, yeah, it's cool to see how he kind of like carries that onward and carries the torch in that sort of mindsets. But yeah, I can't imagine the sort of things I would learn under under having
Same.
that kind of work ethic as well. Crazy.
I am regrettably behind on his videos. I have vague plans to just one day veg them all and just consume them all voraciously, at least the ones I haven't watched. So I've watched the least out of all three of us, I'm sure, but every single one I've watched I've loved, of course, and I just need to find a chunk of time to finish the rest. I was gonna say, Brandon, the one you mentioned about how he stores his collection of games and how jealous I was. I'm like, I want this exact setup. Holy crap! But you already mentioned that one, so I looked up the name of it, and it's actually one that has to do with art and animation. Animation specifically, even though I'm not a motion graphic artist like you guys are. One that really stood out to me is one called "Too Much Is Just Right," and it's about exaggerated character models in Smash
Hmm.
and how when the animation's taken as a whole and you see it as the player, it looks natural. But then if you look at each individual frame, some of the characters' movements and their models are like weirdly stretched out to ways in ways that the actual people can't do, and it doesn't look natural at all. But in the game, as part of one as one of just many frames, it all comes together to look completely natural.
I
So
think
I just thought that was really interesting.
I think they used Kazuya as one of the examples, and
Also,
his
yeah,
torso was twisted in a way that does
Mhm.
not look natural.
yeah,
But in the
yeah.
speed of the game itself, it looks just fine. Because
Same with Pyra, I think they do have a Pyra as well, or Mithra
it's
maybe.
fascinating because yeah, you as a player looking at this perspective, they need to move in a way that you can actually read these movements clearly, and it's so much of what we don't think about because we don't point out like, oh, this looks weird, this looks wrong, this feels unnatural. We don't really there's hardly anything of that I would ever point out and complain about in Smash Brothers because of how polished it is. And that video really goes over what goes into making people see everything so natural in that kind of speed of a game. It's a whole science. It's crazy that
Yeah,
they've cracked it.
amazing. I really can't wait to go back and watch the rest of the videos because every single one was interesting to me, and especially the music related ones. I know he's done a few about music in games as well, which I
Mhm.
of course have to watch. But yeah, that's my answer.
Well, thank you to Disney Duncan for giving us that question. I've been wanting to talk about his channel on here for a while now, so sorry if we kept you a little bit. But that's gonna wrap up the GVG cast episode 119 for today. Thank you all so
Actually,
much for
sorry, Daniel, one thing really quick. Sorry, I just wanted to do a quick couple of patron birthday shout outs. Happy birthday to Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, celebrated theirs on October 20th. Genova Hex, who celebrated theirs on October 22nd, and Luca, who is celebrating theirs right this very moment. Their birthday is today. So happy birthday to all three of you. Sorry we didn't do that at the start, but wanted to make sure we got that in there.
happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
yeah. So, uh, now I lost
Sorry.
my flow.
My bad. Sorry.
We're gonna go ahead and just jump into our credits. Thank you so much to all of our patrons who are always supporting us, always giving us your love. We're so happy to have you as part of our community. That includes all of our producers at the executive tier. And of course, we also have to give a special thanks to our executive producers, who are, in fact, Brandon Bovia, Bangs, OG Pepsi Dealer, Z Patty, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman 23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, The D-Pad, Blake, Joy Content, Angel Martinez, Vidron, Joshua Hunter, Benny Yao, Azran127, Geeky Griffin, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Andrew Medeiros, Becca, Esax08, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber CPHT, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Ryoner, Game Bear Advance, The Game Orb, Super Gamer Dude 101, Rosa Pardo Bowling, hi C's mom, Dark Steel 01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, Dorik, Colin, Blaze Star 25, Twylord, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Heel, Hustlebun, Noah Fitterer, Calvin Atkinson, Brainchild, Jim Wakeland, Aramis Baramis, Lord Metarax, Blaze Collard, Eric, Cat EV Person 5, Mega Beatman Drew Blue Reviews, Ryan Hanley, The Game Jamie, Zombie Joe, and finally, Marathon Max. Thank you all so much. I now see a bunny on the screen. Hello. Is that Hunter?
That's Hunter.
How you doing, Hunter? Thank you for making
Aw.
the cameo appearance before exiting today. All right, everybody. we have things to do and games to play and just parties to have if you're playing Jamboree. So we're gonna sign off now, but we all hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everyone. Till we meet again.
See ya.